You're watching ABC 10 Plus This Week.
Hello, I'm Laura Painter. You're watching ABC 10 Plus This Week. A shocking sight in Stockton, a man emerging from a storm drain. The city cleaned up the area, but questions remain. Then in dollars and cents, how recent moves from a federal government watchdog to help people tackle medical debt is up in the air. And we hit the back roads. John Bartel takes us to Napa Valley, soaking in the vibrant sights and scents of the mustard bloom. ABC 10 Plus This Week starts now. A growing problem for one Sacramento neighborhood could be coming to a head. People living in the Tahoe Park and College Glen neighborhoods say they face fines for parking RVs, trailers, and boats in their driveway and front yards.
And while some argue they've been doing so for years without problems, recent enforcement actions have raised concerns. ABC 10's Garshpal Sangha explains that one city council member is asking for the city to pause the fines as they work toward a solution.
Citations and tickets are piling up for some neighbors in the College Glen neighborhood near the Sacramento State campus because of trailers, RVs, and boats are in the front yards.
We're trying to make memories so we could help with the grandkids and be able to take them out, and now this is an added expense.
Kathy Hicks was cited in January because of her RV, while she was given an extension. She says 10 other homes in her neighborhood were cited.
He's had his boat there for 20 years, and he now got fined.
While city code prohibits such parking, some residents say these rules are going too far.
There's neighborhoods that have 25-foot setbacks, but when you're in a middle-class neighborhood like this, we don't have that luxury.
Lenny Lopez-Wynn says she was fined because of a small crack on the sidewalk in front of her house.
They take care of everything. It's not like this is something that's inhibiting other people from being able to live their lives.
A council member, Eric Guerra, is hoping to put a pause on the citations and is asking the city to find a solution.
How many times did the city fine you guys?
6, I think.
Tahoe Park resident Ethan Valberg supports pausing the citations.
And ultimately, it was not that big a deal. It was like $350. Then they ramped it up to like $1,500 every 2 months. And at that point, we just had to move the trailer.
Some neighbors tell ABC 10 off camera they don't want to see RVs in the front yard, but the city should not be issuing large fines. This neighbor believes a common ground can be found.
If it's in their yard, I don't think they should be fined. If it's on the street like this, yes, because they do tear up the street.
And Councilmember Eric Guerra, who's proposing a moratorium on this item, releasing a statement saying, "I want to encourage the opportunity for the community and code enforcement to work together. And with this council proposal, we are looking for a pause in ticketing and citations while finding the right balance for residents and their property." And that Law and Legislation Committee meeting is at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Reporting in Sacramento, Garshpal Sangha, ABC 10.
Garshpal, thank you. We will continue to track this story. We did reach out to code enforcement for comment today, but did not hear back in time for this report. Tonight, street vendors are getting some much needed help to operate legally in the city and county of Sacramento.
Yeah, the Sacramento Hispanic Chamber of Commerce says it's actually needed now more than ever after the new ordinance that requires sidewalk vendors to have a health and business permit. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias has the story.
I actually didn't know that at my age I was going to start a business and build this company with my family, but the reality is that I had a need.
Ada Davis is the proud owner of Mi Estilo Peruvian Delights, which offers unique empanadas at the Midtown Farmers Market. In the beginning, she says she sold food out of her home to support her parents who moved to the U.S. But a few months later, a family friend told her she needed to be careful selling food without a permit. So she started the process.
Everything is so confusing online, and when you call to the city, you also get to food inspectors that are not helpful, and they give you misinformation. That's what happened with me.
Davis says she was so discouraged she stopped selling her empanadas until another vendor told her to reach out to the Sacramento Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. She attended their street vendor program, which is a free 5-hour, 1-day boot camp in Spanish.
First and foremost, we make sure we go through the whole process on how to become a compliant street vendor within the Sacramento city and county parameters. So it's touching on anything from how to obtain your permits to if you are operating with food.
Also, how to get financing options and how to market your business. Ana Padilla Marquez with the chamber says the workshops are essential with the new ordinance in effect this month, requiring sidewalk vendors to have a health and business permit to operate legally. This footage from last month of the owner of Tacos El Lobo saying he was being treated unfairly as he filmed City of Sacramento code enforcement officers throwing away all of their food.
I think a lot of it is a lack of knowledge. A lot of folks don't know where to go or who to ask for help and guidance.
The chamber has reached out to Tacos El Lobo and is trying to help them get their permits. But she says that's the beauty of the workshops. It's allowed Davis to operate her business without a worry.
Best decision, and I will encourage other people like me that are thinking that maybe it's not worth it to do it. No, go ahead and do it. It's totally worth it. Fight for your dreams.
In Sacramento, Roxanne Elias, ABC 10.
Roxanne, thank you. The chamber offers boot camps on a monthly basis. The next one is next Tuesday at the Stanford Settlement Neighborhood Center in Northgate. The county's also doing free workshops in English to explain the sidewalk vending ordinance. We'll share all that information on our website, abc10.com. An update on a story that's getting a lot of attention on social media and from the city of Stockton.
Okay, take a look. These are images you saw first right here on ABC 10. A woman in Stockton recorded this video of, you see here, a man climbing out of a storm drain.
It's a wild scene. The incident is now raising questions and concerns.
ABC 10's Gabriel Porras has the story.
Well, the biggest question now is, was the man in the video living inside the storm drain? We still don't know for sure. Leaders here at City Hall say they didn't see any signs of that when they did their inspection, but homeless advocates and community members say they wouldn't be surprised. On the corner of March Lane and Holiday Drive, phones are out and fingers are pointing, drivers wanting to see the now viral scene.
What in the world?
That Crystal Santiago first recorded last month.
I literally just captured a moment that was shocking for me, and it's definitely, I feel like it's much bigger. It caused a concern to a lot of people.
When we first visited the scene Sunday, the drain was filled with trash. City officials sent out police the same day and a cleanup crew Monday morning.
I'm just really happy that there has been some change, and it was quick too, that the city responded pretty quick.
The drain now cleaned up, but homeless advocates like Nancy Lamb say there's more work to be done.
You have those who are tired of getting moved, tired of moving their stuff. If it's underground, you know, they're not going to get it. I think that we need to get the shelters up and running. We have the navigation center that's not open yet. We have pathways that isn't open yet. Once we get those open, I think it'll be a game changer.
According to St. Mary's Community Services, its navigation center is slated to be open in May. The Pathways housing project on track to be completed in June. But for the man behind the now viral moment, Nancy has this.
And reach out, take the help. You don't have to live that way.
We did ask officials here at City Hall whether there are any mechanisms in place to prevent people from opening storm drain covers. Right now, they say the biggest deterrent is the cover's weight. In Stockton, Gabriel Porras, ABC 10.
Now, because there was no one inside the drain when they showed up, police say they did not investigate it as a crime, but instead documented the case and sent it to City Hall.
Time now for Dollars and Cents. Tonight, we're talking about medical debt. It's a struggle for millions of Americans. Recent moves from a federal government watchdog to help people tackle it are up in the air right now. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issued new regulations at the start of this year, but the fate of that agency and its regulations are now uncertain. I talk with a Sacramento-based financial expert about what's at stake.
Supporters of the change have called it life-changing. How so?
Indeed, your credit report, is that report card that shows financial institutions, lenders, anyone that's going to give you money. This is why it's your report card to prove I'm good for it.
Credit reports are critical to financing many aspects of American life, like owning a home, a car, or starting a business. But for the millions of Americans with medical debt, reaching those goals could be harder.
Medical debt has been getting in the way of folks getting approved for financing, either completely or approved at reasonable terms.
In early January, during the final days of the Biden administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a federal consumer watchdog, announced new regulations barring medical debt from credit reports, set to take effect March 17th. But right now, the future of the Bureau and that new regulation is uncertain. After President Trump took office for his second term, the CFPB workforce in February was ordered to stop working by Acting Director Russ Vought. Financial coach Maureen Paley says there's also concern this new rule could be reversed.
They can remove that order, which would, again, be a burden. We would bring the burden back to the consumers and the everyday Americans that incur this medical debt and have a hard time getting out of it. And it would benefit those organizations that benefit from folks being in those debts.
Paley also says medical debt is the cause of 60% of bankruptcies. This new regulation could open new doors to people struggling with medical debt. The change is estimated to raise credit scores by an average of 20 points or so for millions of Americans. Put that in perspective for us. What impacts could 20 points have?
20 points can save you tens of thousands of dollars. A 20-point difference on your credit score could be the difference between you getting financing at an exorbitant high interest cost or one at a more moderate interest cost. It could also be the difference between you getting approved at all.
For now, the CFPB website is back up and running after a brief shutdown last month that coincided with the stop work order. And the consumer complaint database is still online, but there may be no one available to take those complaints or to help. Do you have any advice for people on how to manage their medical debt?
One thing that I would suggest is call the entity that's issuing the debt and understand, number one, where it came from.
Get the details of the charge and call the provider for charity care to try to get the debt reduced. You can also ask them to negotiate the debt. This is a developing situation we'll be watching closely. Keep in mind, Californians' credit reports are safe from most medical debt thanks to a new law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom last year. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. You can find all my Dollars and Cents stories streaming now on the ABC10 Plus TV streaming app. The app is free to download on your TV. You can also email me your questions at lpainter@abc10.com.
All right, turning to your voice, your vote. Changes may be coming to the voting process in California as two lawmakers are proposing new rules and guidelines to vote in the state. One of the major qualifications they want to be a part of the voting process is requiring people to show identification when voting. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen shares with us how this would work and also how the governor feels on this matter.
A lot of people have issues with our election system.
Republican Assemblymember Bill Asaley says these issues have sparked a new initiative to try and get a measure on the ballot for the 2026 election.
We launched our coalition, which is going to be working on a voter ballot initiative to require that voter ID be implemented in the state of California.
Asaley echoes President Donald Trump's request. He's been critical of the state's voting protocols and procedures.
In California, we want them to have voter ID so the people have a voice, because right now the people don't have a voice because you don't know who's voting, and it's very corrupt.
According to the Secretary of State, in most cases, people do not need to show identification at polling places before casting a vote. Asaley says this has led to mistrust around election validity.
Some people who've been charged for submitting fraudulent ballots or registering people who aren't qualified. The DMV also reported that it accidentally registered illegal immigrants to vote when they weren't supposed to be able to vote.
In a recent episode of the governor's new podcast called This is Gavin Newsom, he was asked about undocumented people voting illegally here in the state. Here's what the governor had to say in response.
What substantive evidence is there to suggest that you have any receipts to back up that all of these people are voting illegally?
But Asaley says regardless of the proof, it's still difficult to detect who is voting unlawfully.
Nobody checks your ID when you register. Nobody checks your ID when you vote. So they set up a system where you really don't know for sure. And then they say, well, you have no evidence. Well, the system is set up so there isn't evidence.
Before this gets on the ballot, Asaley says he needs to collect more than 1 million signatures and have at least 20,000 volunteers throughout the state, with each having to collect a certain amount of signatures. Regardless of the challenge, Asaley believes this is what a majority of Californians want.
And Jeannie, you also reached out to the governor's office to get an updated response outside of what he just had to say on his podcast, right?
Yes. Well, a spokesperson for his office told me today that they'll reach back out to me if they have anything else to add to this story. I did follow up shortly after, but I did not get a response.
And tonight, a debate continues over transgender student athletes competing in girls' sports. ABC 10's Becca Habecker joins us in studio with where California stands as funding threats grow.
Yeah, Alex, last month, President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender student athletes from high school girls and college women's sports teams. Schools that don't comply risk losing federal funding. Well, tonight I asked those overseeing California's public education system, what's at stake?
Later that day,
Parents and student athletes opposed to transgender girls on high school girls' sports teams voiced their opinions Thursday morning. It was at a meeting of the Executive Committee of the California Interscholastic Federation, or CIF, which governs high school sports in the state. We spoke with St. Francis High School junior Jordan Brace, who asked at the time that we not show her face out of concerns of bullying.
As a female athlete, I want to know that I'm safe and that I'm not engaging in unfair competition and competing against someone that has more physical advantages than I do.
We also spoke with Beth Bourne of Davis, a vocal opponent of transgender students competing on girls' sports teams.
We know it's not fair to have boys in girls' sports. We're asking CIF to return girls' sports to the female-only category.
As for the meeting, no vote regarding transgender athletes was on the agenda, and the CIF told ABC 10 in a statement, the CIF provides students with the opportunity to belong, connect, and compete in education-based experiences in compliance with California law. California law says a student is allowed to participate on athletic teams and competitions and use facilities consistent with his or her gender identity, irrespective of the gender listed on the pupil's records. That was a law passed in 2013 that went into effect in 2014. Assemblymember Bill Asaley has introduced a bill this session to reverse that, requiring students to play on sports teams and use bathrooms consistent with their sex assigned at birth.
So this isn't really an issue about trans people. This is about protecting vulnerable girls and women in safe spaces and about fairness on sports teams.
Advocates for the LGBTQ plus community say such bans are harmful.
And transgender youth already face higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide due to the discrimination and stigma. So excluding them from sports only worsens those disparities.
Last week on his new podcast, This is Gavin Newsom, California's governor told his guest, conservative media personality Charlie Kirk, that he thinks transgender athletes on girls' and women's school sports teams is unfair.
Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that.
This comes as back on February 5th, President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender students from high school girls and college women's sports teams, threatening to rescind all funds from educational programs that don't comply. The CIF responded by saying it's following California law. So a week later, the U.S. Department of Education said it's launching an investigation into the CIF. I asked the California Department of Education what's at stake if Trump makes good on his threat, how much federal funding goes to the K-12 education budget. A spokesperson says for the 2021-22 school year, just under 14%, or $1 in every $7 of public school funding in California came from federal support.
And Becca, how many transgender students are we really talking about here?
Well, not many. The governor's office told us last week in California's 5.8 million student K-12 public school system, the number of transgender student athletes is estimated to be in the single digits. And, I went ahead and asked the U.S. Department of Education for an update on the investigation into the CIF and whether staffing cuts announced at the department would affect that investigation. I did not hear back today. I also asked the California Department of Education if they've seen any federal funding cuts since President Trump took office. They were responsive to other questions I had, but that particular follow-up question I asked late in the day, and so they didn't get to me on that exact one immediately.
All right, Becca, thank you so much. We always appreciate it.
As winter fades and spring pokes through the overcast skies, tiny yellow flowers take over the dormant vineyards of Napa Valley.
This is the mustard flower everybody's talking about.
The annual mustard bloom is a special time of year, especially in the St. Helena region. It's an awakening of all 5 of your senses. Visually, it's a bright beacon that seems to flag down visitors driving along Highway 128.
Especially when the field is full yellow, people stop on the side of the road all the time and get in the vineyard, in the field, in the midst of the flowers and photograph.
Although Salverstrand winery owner Richard Salverstrand appreciates the free publicity the mustard flowers bring in, he also loves the feel of walking through the vineyard this time of year because of what the flowers do for his grapevines.
It helps control nematodes and various fungus that are in the soil. So as the plant breaks down, it fumigates the soil.
So they're like a natural kind of pesticide sort of.
Exactly.
Just a few vineyards down the road, at Whitehall Lane, hungry sheep are getting their fill of mustard. Liliana Ramos with the St. Helena Chamber says this time of year, the woolly animals can eat in peace.
The mustard season, it's very quiet. And with that quietness, less tourism, but you get that really unique experience, that kind of one-on-one time with either a winery or a restaurant.
Speaking of restaurants, mustard is on the menu at the Cliff Family Winery.
This is going to be a bratwurst that we're going to add a little bit of mustard as well as fermented mustard greens.
What are mustard greens, you ask? Well, instead of using sauerkraut, Chef Magnus Young uses leaves from mustard plants.
And we just take mustard greens themselves, cut them up into thin strips, salt them, and then ferment them over about 10 days. And then you get a little bit of that sour flavor from the mustard.
If you didn't know, the mustard dressing we all love and know is a blended up mix of mustard seeds, distilled vinegar, and a little white wine.
Oh man, that's mustard.
That's mustard.
Sure, you can eat a brat by itself, but putting anything other than mustard on a brat is a big faux pas, according to Magnus.
Adding that little bit of acidity, that sour, that slight funk and tang just really helps to liven the whole thing up.
If you want to round out your sensory experience of mustard season, you can immerse your nose in the floral scent of the flower at Brasswood's Sensory Globe Experience.
Well, this is something special. It's our globes that we produce to tell the story of wine through your olfactory. So this is mustard, representing the mustard season.
Mustard and grapevines have a symbiotic relationship by exchanging nutrients in the soil, and the glass sensory globes help you pinpoint the different relationships in taste and smell when drinking wine.
Each globe represents a different variety of wine, and we're showing that your taste has a lot to do with your smell.
Mustard season in the Napa Valley is a full sensory experience, from the sound of buzzing bees to the feel of picking flowers. And with limited crowds, it's a great time to visit. From mustard season in Napa Valley, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
We know that in news, stories are filled with challenges and hardships, but incredible things are happening every day, from neighbors helping neighbors to inspiring acts of kindness. Each week, we are sharing stories on people that are really making a difference, reminding us of the power of community. So in this week's Champions of Hope, I want to introduce you to Jorge Aguilar from Placerville. He volunteers for Toys for Tots as a way of giving back.
Getting a toy from Santa.
We got to tell him what we wanted for Christmas, and he handed us a toy.
Is a moment Jorge Aguilar will never forget.
We grew up poor, and my parents were farm workers. They didn't really have a lot to give us many gifts.
Toys for Tots.
I was a recipient when I was a kid.
Helped Jorge's family pass on a little cheer.
Having somebody other than my parents give me a toy, knowing somebody else cared that much, help me.
Now as a father, he volunteers for Toys for Tots all year round.
I took that ball and ran with it. I got my family involved, my kids. It's become a family affair. It's become a passion of mine.
Passing on toys to kids who were once like him.
You put the toy in the box, and you never know who it's going to be for. A child that doesn't have, or whose parents, like in my case, We're on fixed income.
The need to help families and kids growing.
It's not just about Christmas anymore.
From children in foster care to hurricane and wildfire victims.
Even nationwide, it's a year-round cause.
Jorge hoping to pass on a little kindness.
40 years later, it's still stuck with me.
Creating a memory of a lifetime for another kid.
I never forgot that one toy that was handed to me.
And as Jorge mentioned, the need for Toys for Tots is year-round. So if you would like to help or donate, we have shared information on our website at abc10.com/tothepoint. And of course, if you know someone doing something incredible in your community, don't hesitate to reach out to me and the team. Or if you yourself are doing something great and you want to reach out to us, you always can at tothepoint@abc10.com.
Thank you so much for watching ABC 10 Plus this week. We're here 24/7 on the free ABC 10 Plus app. You can get your local news and weather anytime, anywhere. I'm Laura Painter. Take care and see you next time.
Thanks for watching ABC 10 Plus. And now that you're here, why don't we take a look around and see what else is here? The very first tile on your left is always going to be streaming 24/7. You can find us adjacent to that, breaking news if it's there. And then right next to that, a replay of the most recent newscast, whether it's ABC 10 Morning News at 5, 6, or beyond, it's going to be there. The forecast beyond that, and then right beyond that, the news that matters the most. Now that you know the basic tiles, let's go up to the top and take a deeper dive into news. We have every single newscast that you would need, including To the Point with Alex Bell, taking a deeper dive into the issues. Beyond that, ABC 10 Morning News at 5 and 6 and 11, the evening shows as well. Below that, you can watch the top stories from To the Point. Under that, Dollars and Cents, where you can learn how to navigate this challenging economy. And below that, you can watch our award-winning ABC 10 Special Investigations, where we hold the powerful accountable. Going into weather, look, it's the 10-day forecast, getting you ready for the weekend and beyond. Beyond that, sports. I know you care about the Sacramento Kings. We have the most comprehensive guide to anything, everything Kings in the locker room and on the court. We have it. Below that, I know you care about the San Francisco 49ers. We can't mention Bay Sports without talking about the Oakland A's. We have that too. Backing out again, come up to the top and join me on Verify. I'm super excited about this. Our experts are checking the facts, verifying the truth for you. Jump up now to shows. Very excited about this. Oh, look. It's Take a Look. This is my show. I love movies, and if you love movies or streaming shows, whether it's on screens this big, or this big, it's Take a Look. Recently went behind the scenes, sat down with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix to talk about Joker 2. I love the movie, and oh, I just heard you shout you hate the movie. Jump in, we talk about it on this show. Other shows, Bartell's Backroads, go up and down the state of California, tank of gas getaways, one fuel cell getaway, like places like the Toy Museum. This is what kids did before they had screens. Over here, the Moaning Caverns of Calaveras County, one of the most coveted caves in all of California. You know, watching this show, I discovered there's a cave that could fit the entire Statue of Liberty in your own backyard. You'll find about that and more with Bartell's Backroads. Down below that, To the Point. It is one of my favorite newscasts because they talk about news with Alex Bell the way you talk about news. It's conversational, but in-depth at the same time. Below that, Your California Life. Love this show. Whether it's entertainment, food, beverage, lifestyle, it's there. Desiree Shepherd hosts and does an amazing job. So there you have it. It's ABC 10 Plus, the app. What do you need? We heard you and we got it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for streaming.